Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of a film from Australia, English language, released in the year 1971, directed by Ted Kotcheff, and this film is called Wake in Fright. And the story to Wake in Fright is as follows. Awe-inspiring, brutal and stunning, Wake in Fright is the story of John Grant, a bonded teacher who arrives in the rough outback mining town of Bundanyaba, planning to stay overnight before catching the plane to Sydney. But his one night stretches to 5, and he plunges headlong towards his own destruction. When the alcohol-induced misfits influence him, the educated John Grant is no more. Instead, there is a self-loathing man in a desolate wasteland, dirty, red-eyed, sitting against a tree and looking at a rifle with one bullet left. So this movie is about a man who is on the brink of destruction after he has just finished the first term of teaching in the outback. So this main character, John Grant, he's from England, and he has been teaching in the outback for quite a while. Now, the outback is very, very isolated. So at the end of the first term, he decides that he wants to go to Sydney to regroup and come back for the second term fresh. So before he can go to Sydney, to catch the plane to Sydney, he has to stop over at another outback community called Bundanyaba, which is a very rough mining town. So he plans to stay here one night and then catch the plane to Sydney the next day. But one night turns to 5 nights as he becomes involved in the way of life in this town. He gambles away all of his money and he gets into alcohol a lot as well. He is stuck in this town, and the town is threatening to destroy him as a person. So his mental health is rapidly deteriorating, and he even contemplates suicide in a bid to escape this town. So whether or not he comes out of this in one piece, that's something you're going to have to find out for yourself. That's as far as I'm going with a synopsis. Now, my thoughts on the film. You can be forgiven if you haven't heard of this film, even if you are a hardcore Ozploitation fan, because this movie was regarded as one of the great Australian lost films. Now, this movie was released in 1971, but it wasn't until 2009 when people actually got the chance to see it properly. Now, it's been lost for so many years, and it's thought to have been lost forever, and it very nearly was lost forever if it hadn't have been for someone finding it in the archives in America. And they were about to be thrown out, so it was on the brink of being destroyed forever. So thankfully, the Australian Film and Sound Archive managed to restore it to a DVD format, and now everybody is going to be able to have a look at this Ozploitation forgotten film. Now, if you can get the Australian release, because it comes up in a nice little slipcover with a fold-out cover inside, and a nice little booklet that tells you all about this very interesting history behind this film. So I didn't really know what to expect. I'm a big fan of Ozploitation. I was really excited to come across a film that I hadn't heard about. So I'm sure a lot of people out there will be the same. So if you're an Ozploitation fan, hopefully this video will prove useful to you. So after seeing it, I was absolutely blown away. This movie is the best Ozploitation film ever made, in my opinion. I thought it captures Australia and the scariness that Australia has so subtly, but so it had such impact on me because I like my psychological horror sort of films, and this movie is 100% psychological. Now, there is very disturbing elements in the movie, but it's not graphic, except for one scene involving a kangaroo hunt. But apart from that, everything is implied. And if you don't like that kind of thing, then stay away from the film. But if you want something that's going to deeply upset you and really shake you to the core, then this movie's for you. Now, funnily enough, when this movie was first released, the Australian public didn't want it to be around because it painted Australia in a very bad way, and Australians didn't want to own up to the fact that this was a portrayal of Australia. Everybody wanted to make sure that Australia was seen in a very positive light, and they actually thought that this movie would be very bad for tourism. So I think it's a little bit suspicious that it became lost for so long. Could be a coincidence, but the fact that no one liked the movie when it first came out and the fact that it had been lost for so long, I just think is a little bit suspicious, but as I said, it could be a coincidence, who knows. But anyway, I'm so thankful that it actually got the time of day because it really is an undiscovered gem. Now, this movie is so psychological. The cinematography is absolutely breathtaking. It captures the harsh environment of the outback, and it shows you how little we are compared to Mother Nature. So many Australian films capture this brilliantly, but this movie does it better than anything else because the dry atmosphere really betrays itself through the screen. You feel very uncomfortable in what is happening in the movie, and the cinematography plays a huge part of it. It's a very dry landscape, very hot, the weather is unbearable, and it's just a sheer uncomfortable environment from start to finish. It seems like rain is non-existent, and it also feels like you're in a different world. Bundanyaba, the town, when John Grant, the well-respected teacher, loses all of his money, he becomes trapped in this town. And the town comes across as a monster. and it's not letting John go, and it's threatening to destroy John all up, because it feels like it's in a different dimension. It feels like this town is located in the middle of nowhere. There is no help to come, and that John is just desperate to find a way out, and it even might be suicide that might be the answer. So I thought that was very, very scary. And for once, it painted Australia in a very realistic way, because Australia can be both beautiful, but it can also be extremely frightening, as this film so very well portrays. Now, the characters in the film were frightening once again. John Grant did a good job with the acting, but the person who stole the show for me was Donald Pleasance. He was the token foreigner in the film. Now, I say token foreigner because back in the 70s, Australia got foreign well-known actors to come into their films to sell it off. So, yeah, Donald Pleasance in this movie, I was a huge fan of Donald Pleasance, and I was really, really happy to see him in this film because I think it's one of his best performances. He plays a loudmouth drunk, and he is both funny at times, but also very, very chilling. And what he does to John Grant and how he manipulates him and takes advantage of him and his vulnerabilities, I thought it was second to none in a portrayal of basically bullying. And that these outback locals were taking advantage of the inexperience that John Grant had in this community. And it does show you the different cultures in Australia. The outback people are so much different from the city folk, because the outback people are more, they're used to a harder lifestyle. Therefore, life isn't as precious to them as a city folk. Now, I'm not going to say, that's not a generalization. I'm not saying everyone in the outback thinks that way. But in this film, life, especially nature, isn't as precious as it was to the city folk, as in John Grant. And one scene in particular that demonstrates this is the kangaroo hunt. Now, the kangaroo hunt is extremely brutal and graphic. Don't worry, it was actually real footage. But don't worry, it wasn't made for the film. These kangaroos weren't killed for the film. What the director did very cleverly was take archival footage of a kangaroo cull. Now, kangaroo culls, a lot of kangaroos in the outback, and that they threaten the livestock and all that kind of stuff in the outback towns, and they threaten their income. So sometimes there has to be a cull because it's just overpopulated. Therefore, these hunters come out and they shoot them. So the director didn't kill these kangaroos for the film. He just put the archival footage into the movie, and I actually thought it portrayed the mentality behind these locals, and it made them even more chilling because life wasn't as important to them. And you could see John Grant was really struggling with the things that he was doing as a result of peer pressure, and therefore it was transforming him from a decent citizen to a low-life sort of misfit who had thoughts of suicide because he just couldn't find a way out of this town, and the town was threatening to eat him alive, so to speak. So also some very good acting from Jack Thompson, who is a well-known Australian actor. This is his very first film. And also Chips Rafferty, who was a personality here in Australia. This was his very last film before he died. So it was really interesting to see some classic Australian actors in this film when they were so young. And I actually thought, it's basically a completely different lifestyle, and it does show you the effects of different cultures and how that can clash and that can be something bad. It also demonstrates the power of alcohol. Alcohol is a currency in this film. Everyone seems to drink it. If you've got a problem, alcohol will be the solution. So basically, these people lead a very boring lifestyle, and it seems like alcohol is substituting this, and it's getting them through day to day. And the power of alcohol to John Grant, it basically destroys him, and it just becomes very chilling in what he actually does as opposed to what he actually did at the start of the movie. So there is a slow progression of someone losing their identity as a result of the environment that they have found themselves in. Now, the music was very frightening. I thought there were some sound effects that reminded me of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, some very eerie, demonic sort of screeching noises that really contributed to when John started to lose his sanity. You really felt like you were going down a path of insanity as well, and it's kind of like the demons were taking over him. Also reminded me a lot of Calvaire, which is a Belgian-French horror film that I thought was brilliant, and it's the same sort of feeling that I got in this movie. So if you like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you like the way that portrayed itself in the very glaring and dull atmosphere, then you'll definitely like this one because it is very reminiscent to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, although it's a very different story. This is more of a psychological film than a graphic film. Now, there is implied rape, which is very disturbing. I actually think it was better that it wasn't shown graphically because it just makes it even more powerful when you have to use your imagination, basically. So this really is a very frightening tale of a community influencing a good person, and basically, this person resorting to these inhumane things because of alcohol, gambling, and also just other people spurring him on. It's an absolutely fantastic film. It's a forgotten gem. I'm giving this 5 stars. I cannot praise this one enough. Please go out there and see it. As I said, it wasn't until 2009 when this one got attention, so that was a bitter shame. But thankfully now everybody can see it in its full glory. So absolutely fantastic. The best Ozploitation film ever made, in my opinion. Go out there and see it. You will not be you will not be disappointed. Sorry, I lost my words for a minute there. It's only rated M, recommended, but don't let that put you off because psychologically it's a very tormenting film. Absolutely brilliant. Definitely go and see it. 5 stars. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies and I'll see you later.